All right, in this video we are going to start using a different way of creating JavaFX applications with some of the built-in tools that come with Eclipse, or that we've installed into Eclipse. All right, so this is a fundamentally sort of different way of creating these JavaFX applications than we've been doing. We've kind of been doing everything by hand so far. So now we're going to kind of take a more sophisticated approach using, again, some of the built-in things that we have. So first off, you got to make sure that you've installed everything according to those instructions that I gave you at the beginning of the semester. If you have issues with that, then you might want to revisit those instructions that I supplied at the beginning of the semester. Okay, so when we go to start, let's talk about the problem first. And these are the problems that we've done by hand before about events. And so it says, write a JavaFX application that displays a label containing the opening sentence or two from your favorite book. When the user clicks a button, display the title of the book that contains the quote in a second label. So these are from the events section that we did before. I can't remember what lesson it was, but in that section we were using Lambda expressions to call the event handler method, and so we're going to do things in a slightly different way when we do that this time. Okay. And so there will be some differences between the way we were doing things previously and this way. So you really need to make sure that you do things the way I'm going to show you in this video moving forward. Okay, so first thing is you want to create a project. And now right off the bat, a big difference is instead of creating a Java project, right, we're going to go down here to Other. And we're going to expand JavaFX, and we're going to create a JavaFX project. So click on JavaFX project there, click Next. All right, give it a project name, and so I'm just going to call this one Book Label Project. In this case, I'm just going to use the default location. All right, and click on Next. I'm not really going to include a module-info file. Click Next. Okay, so that will take you to this window here, this dialog box. And so you'll need to make some choices here. This is going to be a desktop app as opposed to a mobile app. You would choose the package name. Okay. Under language, you're going to choose FXML. And once you choose FXML here, you have your choice of which root pane that you want. And so I'm going to choose anchor pane in this video. All right, so you have a couple of choices here. File name, this is the file name for your FXML file. That's the file that's generated by Scene Builder. Okay, so for file name, I'm just going to call mine Book Label FXML. All right, and so what's going to happen when we create this project? The FXML file is going to contain the layout and everything of your application, and then what's going to happen is a second class is going to get generated, and that's called the controller class. And that controller class is going to contain all of the code, all of the event handlers that you're going to use for the elements in your scene. Okay, so before we were kind of putting everything into one big file, but that's really not the best way to organize things, especially as your applications get more complicated. And so here we're going to separate basically how the user interface looks into this FXML file, and then the code that controls elements in the fxml file, the buttons and things like that. The code for that's going to be in a separate class, the controller. So this needs to be a legitimate Java class name. So I'm just going to call mine book label controller. All right, click finish. And then it's going to generate the project for you. All right, so let's take a look at the project and how it's laid out. It's going to be laid out pretty similar to what we had before. We have the source directory and the application file here, or the application package. All right, there's going to be a class called main, and let's open up that and look. All right, and you can see that this main.java basically did all the preliminary work for you. All right, it implemented the start method, right? It has the stage parameter, and then here we chose an anchor pane, right, to be the root component. And you can see that it sets that up and basically sets the scene and does all those things that we were doing by hand. It just kind of automatically does that for you. So it basically gives you a skeleton application. Okay. Then the fxml file is here. We can open that and look. Okay, and so you can see it's laid out. It's pretty bare bones. So one nice thing about this is that the fxml file, we can right click on that and do open with scene builder, and that will open up in scene builder, and we can just edit it that way. Okay. All right, so that's the approach that we're going to take when we do this first example. All right, inside the controller class, it's pretty blank right here. There's not a whole lot in here yet. So our event handlers and things like that, we'll start adding those into this controller later on. Okay. And then the other file we have is a cascading style sheet file. You can use this file to apply styles to the elements of your application. Okay. All right, so that's what you get with that tooling. That's that FX Eclipse that generates all that stuff. So if this is not happening for you, then you need to make sure and go install that, looking at those directions in the instructions. And the instructions for installing that FX Eclipse, it should be the same for whether you're on a Windows 10 machine or a Mac. Okay. Okay. So now what I'm going to do then is to get going on our application is to start laying this out in Scene Builder. All right. So to do that, what you want to do is right click. Okay. And then go to Open with Scene Builder. And then the Scene Builder application should pop up. Over here. Okay. All right. So the Scene Builder application pops up. The only thing is you can't really see anything in here, right? There's nothing in there. So what you're going to need to do is go down over here into the hierarchy panel under the tab under the document panel, and highlight that anchor pane, and then go over here to layout, and then choose the width and the height. Let's see, that is sorry. Let's see. There we go. So for some reason I thought you could do it here on these, but I guess you can't. So preferred width and height, and I think I want that backwards. I want it 600 by 400 here. So go into the layout panel and set the preferred width and height inside here. Okay. Like so. So for whatever reason, it starts off minimized like that. So some things to note under here after you get that resized and start laying it out. Notice that it automatically has this controller here. So you can see that the controller that we specified when we created the JavaFX project, it's listed here, book label controller. Okay. All right. So what we want to do is we want two labels and a button. So what you're going to do is go under controls and drag those out. So label, just put it right here in the middle. And another label here. And then a button. Okay, so in this first label, what we're going to do is put the title or the opening lines, I think is what they want. That's in Eclipse. A label containing the opening sentence or two from your favorite book. Okay, so just pick something there. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. All right, and let's center that. All right, in the second label, the name of the book, right? That's A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. And I'm just going to center that in the middle here. Okay, so this label up here at the top, that is not going to change at all. So we don't need to worry about that, giving that an FX ID or anything like that. So there's really nothing to do with this label right here. This label, however, right, it's going to be changing, so we need to give it an FX ID. I'm going to call mine book label. Okay, and these should be legitimate Java variable names. So here I have this one, book label. Okay, and that's it on that one. All right, and so next up is the button. I want to have it say click me or something, I don't know. And then go down here to the code part, and I'm just going to give it a name FX ID of button. And then for the on action, that's the method, right? That's going to be called when the button is clicked. I am just going to call that handle button. Again, that needs to be a legitimate Java method name. All right, and so that looks pretty good. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this text in here. I'm going to delete all of the text in the book button because it's going to start off blank. So that's how it will appear when the app starts, and then the user is going to click the button. That's going to generate this text right here in the label. Okay, or that's what it's supposed to do. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to save that. and then I can go back, and that will be in my my FXML file. You can see that stuff is laid out in there. Okay. Okay. So I did forget to do one thing, so I'm going to open Scene Builder back up. Open with Scene Builder. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I can do to get that to get the controller the way I want it. The easiest thing, one of the easiest things to do is to go over here and say show sample controller skeleton. That's going to pop up this little window, right? And this basically has almost all of the things that you need for the controller. It's basically skeleton code, right, for the controller itself. So what you want to do is copy that out. And then go back over here to controller and paste that in, like so. Okay. Now, for whatever reason, it doesn't include this. You can see it includes the imports here, so you don't have to mess around with that. But for whatever reason, it doesn't include the import on this action event. So what you need to do is include that. And if you hover over that, you'll see it shows the quick fixes. And under quick fix, you don't want the first one. It's not java.auth.event. It's JavaFX.event. That's the one you want. And so add that, and it will fix it. So at that point, your application should run. If I go back over here to the main.java, yep, that's the one I want, and run that. It should load that up. And now you're going to see something doesn't look right. And that's because you can see that the way I had it laid out here, the writing is going off the edge there. So the problem with that is I adjusted it in Scene Builder, but it didn't get updated here in the main.java on this where the scene is created. So this is creating a 400 by 400 scene when I wanted a 400 by 600. So I'm going to change that to 600 there. And I'm going to set the title. Like so. All right, so run that. All right, and you can see I got it the wrong way. So go back and fix that. 600 by 400. All right, so there we go. So everything is running, looks pretty good. But there's no functionality here, okay? When I click on the button, nothing happens. So I'm going to close that out. All right, and so now what I need to do is to add that functionality in there. So now, from now on, that functionality is going to be in the controller class that you have here. All right, and so what I'll need to do is to do book label dot set text. And then the text that I want to set it to. So it was A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Okay. So that will access the label book label and then set its text to this, right? So what happens is when the user clicks the button, this handle button method is called. It's an event gets passed in there. Right, and then this action is taken, the action that we want. All All right, and so when I run that, there's how the application looks when I'm starting. All right, and then when I click, you can see it displays this message right here. Okay. All right, and so that is how to get started on a JavaFX application using Eclipse, right? Scene Builder and FX Eclipse. So you can see a lot of the sort of boring stuff is kind of done for you when you use these. So these tools are great. I do think it's important to go through it by hand to kind of get a feel for what the different parts do, what their basic functions are, and how that's set up. But you can see this way is a lot quicker for setting things up. Okay, so from now on, you should kind of be doing your applications like this. All right, that is it on this one.